Hello friends, welcome to Varical's Learning Blogs. This is CA Prince George and it's my Income Tax Act 1961 learning series. In the last video we studied the rules to determine the residential status of an individual, section 6 subsection 1 and couple of other subsections. Today we are going to study the same for other persons. So let's start with section 6 subsection 4, which lays down the principles to determine the residential status of persons other than company and HUF. So for example, a partnership firm or LLP, AOP, etc., trust, etc. So what does the subsection say? It says that where the management and control of the person is wholly located outside India, it shall be considered as a non-resident person for that previous year. So in other words, where the management and control of the affairs of the business are even partly located in India during the previous year, or where even partly controlled from India, it will be considered as a resident. Now this term the management and control of the affairs of the business, this phrase, it is not defined in the act. However, it has been there in the statute right from the inception. So over a period of time, because of various court judgments and because of how the tax professionals and the department also started viewing it, it has acquired a certain meaning or a certain direction to the meaning, and this interpretation is very heavily dependent on the physical presence of all those individuals who are at the helm of the affairs of that organization. So for example, where the physical presence of the managing director of a partnership firm, who is actually running the show, who is the main person, is in Dubai, and for the whole year he has been in Dubai and was running the show from there, controlling, giving directions to the team, and some of the partners were based out of India. But where this control and management was wholly outside India, physically, because the person is there, it will be considered as a non-resident as per the definition. Of course, this doesn't mean that this partnership firm in India will not have to pay any tax because it has become a non-resident. Even in case of non-resident, if there is any income accruing or arising in India, it will be taxed in their hands, but the global income will not be taxed. So as I said, this term, control and management of the affairs of the business, it is not defined, but with the facts of the case, it will also always have to be interpreted. So I will not spend too much of time, because it's really futile to even attempt to conclude what these phrases can mean, right? It is just enough for us to understand at this point that the physical presence of the people who are running the show, it matters a lot when one has to decide whether the person is a resident or a non-resident. But it is not carved on stone, right? So I will leave it here. Now let's come to section 6 subsection 4, which lays down the rules to determine residential status of company. So company can be a foreign company or it can be an Indian company that is registered under the Companies Act. So where it's an Indian company, by default it is a resident. It doesn't matter who is running the show from where. If it is registered in India, it is a resident company. And if it is a foreign company, then it can be a resident, it can be a non-resident as well. Now, when can it be a non-resident? It can be a non-resident. Sorry, when it can be a resident? It can be a resident where the place of effective management of the company was in India during the previous year. Now, what does this place of effective management of the company mean? Let us go a little bit in the history of this phrase, this term. Now, earlier, before 2015, even in case of company, the same parameter which is used for partnership firm, etc., that is control and management of the affairs of the business, was used. However, as I said, everybody had that term had acquired a certain meaning which was hinging more on the physical presence of the directors, of the board meeting, etc. But with changing times, with globalization, the way now the businesses are done, the key managerial person who were at the helm of the organization were spread across the globe. So it had become almost impossible, and not just impossible, there was a lot of arrangements which were done, which was possible to do to evade tax. For example, it was possible to evade tax and make the company a non-resident by shifting the base of the board members, right? So even though the board members are all located outside India, say let's say in a tax haven where there is zero tax, but they were able to control and manage the company from there. But because of this interpretation, it was possible to acquire the status of non-resident for an otherwise resident company, just because the physical location of a base of these individuals were outside India. So a need was felt that in the current times, with the changing business, we need a new concept, and also because it was important to align the parameters that we use in India to determine the residential status of foreign companies with the parameters that other developing countries are using for determining the residential status of foreign company. So this alignment was important, and that's the reason why India also adopted what OECD has, the concept that OECD had given, that is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So they gave a concept of POEM, that is place of effective management, and many countries adopted this concept, including India. So now for foreign companies, if the place of effective management is situated in India, it shall be considered as a resident. Now it doesn't matter where the board meetings are held, where the key managerial persons are located, where are they controlling it from. If ultimately the place of effective management, that's why they have used the word effective management. If the place of effective management is in India, they will be considered as resident. Now, this term is also defined in the Act. Now, what does this place of effective management mean? So, where the key management and commercial decisions are in substance taken from India, for the entity as a whole, it will be considered as the place of effective management located in India. The location will be deemed in India. Now, when we say that decisions are taken in substance in India, what does this mean? So, this simply means that it doesn't matter where on papers the decisions are taken. You may be sitting and signing the agreement somewhere else, right? Or in the papers it is somewhere else. On paper, the board meetings are held somewhere else. However, if in substance the effective management was in India, effectively it was in India, then it will be considered as a resident in India and accordingly taxed. Now, again, I will stop at this point. I will not make any attempt to conclude what further effective management means, because again it's a very very futile attempt to conclude anything on these kind of subjective concepts and phrases. Ultimately, when practically we have to determine whether the place of effective management of a foreign company is located in India or outside India, the ideal way is to gather all the facts and see where the effective management is lying, whether in India or outside India. So I have always learned that whenever in income tax act, income tax law, we face a situation where it is very subjective, like in this case, to determine poem, whereas poem is very subjective, then the best approach is to gather all the facts and find a story out of it. It is like a prism. When you see a prism from different angles, you see different colors. So which is the right angle? The same analogy applies for income tax law as well. There cannot be a right and wrong answer. We will have to gather, as I said, all the facts and then connect all the facts in a meaningful way so that a logical story emerges out of it, and it will all depend on our ability to articulate it in a very convincing way so that others also see what you are seeing. If you are able to convey your perspective about that situation to others, then that becomes the reality. That there is nothing real or unreal, truth or no truth, false. As I said, it depends which angle do we see from, right? So with that, I will just stop here. I mean, if anybody has any queries and want to further discuss this idea, both of control and management and also of place of effective management, I am open to it. Thank you so much.